Hello and welcome back to this Bayou Time. Thank you so much for joining us again. Your host, Keith Weisheit. We appreciate it as we continue to talk about Hurricane Ida recovery. And the only way that we can do that is to find out from the professionals working in the field, those people taking care of so many needs. So very glad to welcome back to the program, Lisa Schilling. Lisa, thank you so very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Of course, Executive Director of South Central Louisiana Human Services Authority. And it's taken me a long time to be able to say that well enough.
Say the whole name, I know. It's a long name. We're
it is.
Yeah.
Well, listen, it's long because it's all the things that your organization does. And so let's talk a little bit about what y'all are seeing in the community and what those needs are right now.
Yeah, so, we talked about the fact, and we'll touch on this more, that we have all of our sites almost up and running. And so those individuals that are coming in having a lot of anxiety, stress, depression, a lot of them have lost everything. So it really is trying to help them work through that process. I'm really glad to say that we probably had a crisis. Well, I can tell you about crisis, but we've only done probably less than 10 PECs. First of all, we don't have anywhere to send them.
Right.
So if you want to go to the emergency room, you can, but when you talk about inpatient beds, those are not available right now. So our staff really is doing everything they can in our outpatient settings to be able to keep them, from having to go into a hospital somewhere in North Louisiana, in Mississippi, that type of thing. So I really applaud our staff for that, because they're helping people in the midst of their own recovery. And so, a lot of people seem to forget that sometimes. We're there, and you're there in the community, and you're working hard, but you're also working hard trying to deal with your own issues and concerns.
Well, and again, a PEC is a physician's emergency certificate. And what that means is that a clinician and a physician have consulted and said, this person really can't function without being in a hospital. And so we know that PECs tend to be on the rise during high stress situations, and especially this particular hurricane. So what a credit to your team to only having 10 of those.
Yeah, because we've seen probably a little over 3,000 people. So, in the time that we've been up since the 8th of September. And so that's a lot, and it's a lot going on. I also want to mention, and as well, that during this time, people will sometimes slip back into their old habits. So if they, at one point were a substance abuser, it's easy to say, I'm going to go back and start drinking because that helps numb some of my feelings. Or if I can find that extra little stash out in the community, and I can, cocaine or marijuana, those types of things. And so really working hard in the community too. We have our staff for a crisis out in the community handing out all of the bags that will help disintegrate some of the medications. We're still doing Narcan in the community and making sure that all our first responders have that available as well.
Right. And again, a lot of those people who are self-medicating, they're trying to find something, like you said, to numb this difficult pain.
Right.
Because, this catastrophic hurricane that comes through, and there, like you said, a large percentage of those people really lost everything. And we're talking about people some that can't afford insurance.
Right. And have not had insurance. And so how am I going to rebuild? Where am I going to live? What am I going to do? It's so sad when you hear a lot of them are living in tents, some of them in their cars, and they have children. And so we're trying to help them get resources. But as you and I both know, resources are very small right now. And so it is trying to do what we can do through our call line as well. That's been our single point of entry day one. And so round the clock. We've had a lot of individuals we've helped with medication management, a lot of people calling in that are not our patients, but we can help you. And we've had prescribers that are on there. We have nurses on the call line. But a lot of people calling in, they just want to talk. They want to share their feelings. They want to talk about what's happened to them. And they're looking for you to give them some type of hope and ways to really deal with that stress and anxiety.
And listen, being present, that listening ear, can be as therapeutic as any intervention that we do.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. And we have really great peer support specialists that are on our call line too. And so they are the ones that sometimes will take over those calls to be able just to talk and listen to them. Because if they're not in any type of crisis, we're going to have our, masters and licensed staff talking to them. And it's about trying to meet everyone's needs where they are and helping them get through this disaster, this pandemic as well, because that's still on top of everything that we're doing. So we're not just dealing with the storm aftermath, but also people are now, we're on COVID, where can I go get a test? Can you all get us, a shot? Would I get the antigen? So everything is just doubled down on that.
Well, and the call line itself is just such a wonderful concept. And there's so many different layers to it, like you said.
Yes.
It's being able to call in to do that initial assessment and then really plug them into what they need. Do they need somebody to just listen? Do they need somebody to really assess what their needs are? And or do they need whatever available support we have right now in the community to be able to do that? But it's just the different layers, and that's what South Central provides. So many different layers to support. And so we have about a minute left in this particular segment. I kind of want to talk about those different layers and what we're doing for people. And like you said, most of your area is up and running.
Yes, we're really excited about that. All of our clinics, so our HOMA clinic, our development disabilities office, also our LaPlace clinic, only our assessment, not our treatment, because it still has some work to be done.
Right.
Morgan City was not affected, so it was up and running right after. But our Raceland clinic still needs a little love. It needs some work to be done. We've had it remediated, but we're going to have that construction start on that next week.
At least one of the things we were talking about is all of the efforts that y'all have made. Morgan City was always there. In fact, I reached out to them week one about talking with things, and very glad that they were there about taking care of people, doing the recovery that you guys needed to do with regards to your different agencies. But y'all are doing some outreach as well.
Sure. Yeah. So the fact that Morgan City was up and running was really great for us because they had about 5 different shelters all within St. Mary Parish. And so daily our staff would reach out to the shelters and say, what do you need? Can we help you? Are there individuals we need to see? We'd go out to the shelters. We brought resources and supplies. We also did that as far as Napoleonville, so the Assumption Parish shelter they had there. We were also working in conjunction with some of the Office of Behavioral Health staff from Louisiana Department of Health. They were sending in some of their Louisiana Spirit staff. And so let me put that out there where we're talking about Louisiana Spirit. Everybody keeps calling and says, where's your team? I know you're going to get that contract. The state has applied for grant funding for us to have a Louisiana Spirit team here in our area for our 7 parishes.
Wow.
Also for Jefferson Parish because they were affected, and Metropolitan. And so we're waiting to have that approval funding so that we can put a staff, hire staff, get them trained, and put them in the community. And so they will be going out to all of the shelters and really knocking on doors in all of our areas and trying to help people as well. So we're just trying to stand up all of that right now with our staff and still keep our clinics running. And so
and about blending those.
And blending, yeah. And so our Terrebonne clinic was open the 9th. Morgan City was the 8th, Terrebonne the 9th. We had some hours, shortened hours for all of that. But we're all back now. We're 8 to 4:30.
Right.
LaPlace is open too. And we're still going into the shelters here in this area. And so we have some designated staff that are going into La Rose. We're also going to now, the 3 homeless shelters are combined into one on Equity Boulevard.
Right.
So we're doing that. We have tried to, some attempts to reach out to some of the tribal groups as well. So we want to get in the community and work with them. It's just hard to do it with limited staff. I still have about 40 staff that were affected, and they have no homes to live in. So it's kind of hard to ask them to go out and do that while they're trying to really, get their life back in order. And so we're doing that as well. Development Disabilities has reached out to all of our waiver patients, Flexible Family Fund, all of them. So we have them back online. They're getting their checks. They're having their care taken care of. And we're putting our mobile unit out next week.
Wow.
And we're really excited about that because we had some damage to it, but we got that fixed. And so next week, on the 12th, we're going to be at the Golden Meadow Town Hall.
Okay.
And on the 14th, we're going to be at St. Joseph Catholic Church in Chauvin.
Okay.
And the following week, we're going to be at the Lockport Town Hall.
Okay.
And then we'll also be at the Berg Supermarket in Berg. So we're also trying to work in how we can go to St. Charles Parish and St. James and Assumption.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of things going on, a lot of things that we're trying to work through and make happen, but please be patient with us. We'll make sure it happens.
Well, look, and that's just one of those things. Y'all are working so very quickly based on what the limitations are and how to do that.
Exactly.
So there's some formal processes that have to take place, and we've got to coordinate with other governmental entities and DHH and those kinds of things that we're working on. But one of the things that you mentioned that y'all are seeing is it's not just our adults.
Right. So much focus has been put on our adults and what's going on with them, and that's very important because they're the individuals that are trying to take care of the entire family and get everything back online, but also issues with some of the children. And so, a lot of our people stayed, right? They stayed through the storm, and they had their whole family with them, and in that family were children. And so you can imagine now if those children are listening to the news and they're hearing that we're going to have another storm, or that there's something out in the Gulf, or it's, a big rainmaker or whatever, all of those emotions come back up. So it's really important that we pay attention to our children, talk to them, try to reassure them, listen to everything they're saying, validate their feelings, because that's really important. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to, not want to stay here, but let's talk about what we can do to make that better. And I feel like, we really have to watch their behavior.
Yeah, and it's much like what your call line does for people, having that person to listen. We need to listen to the kids as well and see what their starting point is.
Right.
They may have had some tremendous, there was one little girl that it started raining and water started coming into her room first. And I was listening to the parent tell me about that. I was thinking, listen, you need to talk
to her
and listen to her about where she is. And it turns out that she really needed some help. We were able to get her connected to talk to somebody. So
that was awesome.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and that's what y'all do.
Right.
And we need to kind of look at this. One of the things that y'all are able to do with sending this mobile unit out, getting all your agencies up and running, is being able to look at the big picture. And that's what we need to do for our families. See what their needs are, from the elderly, adults, down to kids.
From the, cradle to the grave. That's, we're dealing with all of it right now. And so I'm glad you said that. I do want to put a plug in right now with what we're going out with our mobile unit. We're going to do primary care and behavioral health.
Oh, both.
So, I know a lot of the areas still don't have, our hospitals are not up and running.
Right.
They're doing the very best they can to get back online. I know that Shawbear is coming back online, I think Friday. I saw that on the news last night.
Yes.
So we're excited about that. But yeah, just to be able to do that. One of the things that we added to our service regimen was to do tetanus shots. So, a lot of that's going on out there too.
Right. So lots of services. The mobile unit's going to be able to do both of those assessments, primary care and behavioral health. Lisa, we can't thank you enough for coming in, but really more importantly about what you're doing in the community, getting things up and running and taking care of people.
I thank you so much for having us. One thing I want to say before we leave is if you do have an issue, please call our call line, 877-500-9997, and we'll try to meet your needs and get you into the right service.
Appreciate it so much. All right, that's Lisa Schilling. We're so very glad for what they do. We thank you for joining us. We're going to take a short break. More Bayou Time when we continue.